Good evening, everybody. I'm Ann Vandersteelen. Welcome to Steel News. You have entered the war zone. And yes, the world is on fire. We're going to talk about everything that is happening under the sun here, including the fact that we have an election that is staring down both barrels at the voters on both sides of the aisle. And I can think of none other better individual than to ride shotgun with me this evening to talk about everything, because he writes about everything prolifically on his Substack, than my good friend, Colonel Rhett John Mills. John, always great to have you on. Thanks for joining me this evening.
Thank you, Ann. An honor to be on the show with you again. Thank you.
So, world on fire. You coined this phrase recently in a briefing, and we now are hearing President Trump talk about the world on fire. There is so much news out there. If we start right here in this country with just the issues we are being challenged with, from wokeism to election integrity to are we going to have an election, to the World Homicide Organization launching monkeypox, and then you catapult over to the Middle East, and then you buzz on over to China and Taiwan. It seems, and then of course, let's not forget what's going on down in South America, the Chinese invasion, the Panamanian overrun Darien Gap, and of course, Alejandro Mayorkas and the NGOs bringing all these illegals into our country, and Social Security numbers being stolen by the billions. What's the most important thing we should be focused on, John, at this time?
Wow, thank you, Ann. Well, that's great. I think that's part of the strategy. It's classic fifth generation warfare, as Boone Cutler and General Flynn would say. They're trying to overwhelm our senses. They're coming at us in a swarm from all directions. But fret not, that's Bible. Fret not, fretting is a sin. We need to stay focused on securing America and winning this election. But it is a world on fire. What I say in my briefings, just gave one at the American Freedom Alliance in Phoenix, Arizona, in August, or earlier this month in August, is it's not August 2024, it's August 1939. Okay, and if somebody was back in August 1939, and some Harvard erudite professor, and you ask them, well, professor, is the world at war? And they'd say, well, no, there's only been one. It was the Great War. We're not a world at war. We just have all these regional conflicts. Japan is running amok in China. The Italians are attempting to exterminate the Ethiopians who are valiantly defending their land. There's a civil war going on in Spain, which is kind of almost code word for Ukraine. But all these things, but no, there's not a world war. But then the next month, September 1939, it was acknowledged there actually was a world war already in progress.
Yeah.
That's when Germany crossed over the border into Poland. And from that point onward, there was no question it was a world at war.
Well, we're a world, not only a world at war, but specifically here in the United States, we're a country in a civil war. It's been an information civil war for quite some time. Mark Zuckerberg, of course, his letter being released was explosive when he finally threw the government under the bus, where he says, he was just following orders, right? Just following orders, just following orders. And he says in the future he wouldn't do it. Is he really throwing the government under the bus, or is he trying to avoid prosecution and perhaps even the dismantling of his own company, Meta, for their hand in COVID and, of course, election interference, et cetera, et cetera?
Oh, absolutely. And remember, the Meta was created as a legal maneuver or a legal jujitsu to defend against the deconstructing, just like AT&T was deconstructed in the 80s and the 90s. So that Meta was absolutely the creation of a parent company. Google created Alphabet because of the same concern that they're going to get taken apart and made into baby Googles. Zuckerberg is concerned, but if you also look at the metrics of Facebook, now the subordinate company, the metrics and usage are actually in a downward trend line. And so he sees the world is changing. He doesn't want to become the what did it used to be called? What was there was one social media. It's the name's escaping me now, but it exists, but barely anybody uses it. It'll come back to me. But yeah,
Parlor?
this is long before Parlor. This was
Oh,
uh, uh,
uh,
it's coming back to me.
yeah, it was before Facebook. It was like something in me or something like that. It was
My
MySpace.
yeah, MySpace.
MySpace. He
My
doesn't want Facebook to become relegated to the MySpace bin of or ash bin of history, something like that.
Yeah, he doesn't want it to become the Kodak carousel slide projector. So, but yeah,
Right.
his letter was very interesting that you're projecting on the screen. Yeah, it was in many ways the beginning of a preemptive legal kabuki dance to say, yeah, I mean, you said it. I was just following orders. Well, that didn't work out well at the Nuremberg trials. He said, I was just following orders. Well, he's a grown man, I think,
Yeah.
but he could have told the Biden team to take a hike. And some of this actually goes back during the Trump days when you had out of control FBI giving orders and directions that was really not coming lawfully, and it wasn't coming from the Trump administration, but they were
Right.
already beginning the crackdown. I'm still one of the ones. I've had to create a new profile on. I'm back on X as Colonel Rhett John 2, but I had a fairly substantial following, and they haven't released my Colonel Rhett John moniker yet. They haven't destroyed it, but they haven't released it either.
So frustrating. I've seen a few people recently had their X accounts restored, formerly Twitter. So it's possible they'll get to you, John. It's very possible. But again, I want to harken back to this letter from Zuckerberg because, he talks about in this letter the FB lie, as I like to call them, that they warned Facebook about a potential Russian disinformation operation about the Biden family and Burisma in the lead up to the 2020 election. And he says that fall in his letter to Jim Jordan, when we saw a New York Post story reporting on corruption allegations involving then Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden's family, we sent that story to fact checkers for review and temporarily demoted it while waiting for a reply. It's since then been made clear that the reporting was not Russian disinfo. And in retrospect, we shouldn't have demoted the story. We changed our policies and processes to make sure this doesn't happen again. Well, what I find ironic about all this is, of course, the FBI has been behind this Russian hoax all along. They've collaborated with, the Brits and our own foreign intelligence agency, the CIA or CIA, whatever you want to call it. We've had so many instances, John, where the FBI has, I would say, been the problem, not the solution. Not to wit, this $2.9 billion, 2.9 billion Social Security profiles that were supposedly stolen, and the FBI is now, trying to actually point the finger at Iran. Talk to us about this. Is Iran behind this? Is this a ruse of the FBI? Are they trying to steal Social Security numbers to make people vote when they don't realize they're voting? I mean, 2.9 billion. Like, we don't even have 2.9 billion in our country. So what are all these Social Security numbers? That sounds like a fake number to begin with. Did they mean 2.9 million? What happened here?
This is crazy. They said 2.9 billion, which doesn't mathematically make any sense, but
Right.
all these professionals have had their brains mushed by DEI and don't know the difference between a million and a billion. Yeah, this story originally came out in April, but it didn't get a whole lot of attention, and now it's come out again. The FBI has seemed to link Iran to it, but if Iran is doing it, Iran is the chief proxy state of China. They have cyber capability and capacity. The Russians are fully engaged in the European theater of conflict right now. So the Iranians have essentially displaced the Russians as the primary go-to cyber actors on behalf of China. This gives China some anonymity and plausible deniability, but I can assure you that Iran is doing this absolutely directly under the orders of China. And this number, what was stolen, is exactly what is needed to produce ballots at an industrial level. So it's no longer about ballot harvesting, which oftentimes is legal. And you got Republicans, conservatives who go bonkers over this. It's legal. Get over it. Okay.
Mm.
So now the Republicans, I was just at a meeting last night in Arlington, Virginia with the Trump team and Virginia Republicans. And hey, they're all in for this ballot harvesting, which essentially is legal in Virginia. But guess what? This is what I say over and over again. The threat vector always evolves. And the Dems, it's no longer about ballot harvesting. It's about ballot production. Ballot production. Now, this is the challenge. Those 2.9 billion included names, social security numbers, names, addresses, and telephone numbers, the four key elements normally needed to request a ballot. Even here in Virginia, we don't mail in ballots only when requested, but this might even with Virginia. Now, there's some states that you're going to get a ballot whether you asked for it or not. But in Virginia, I'm concerned that they're just going to flood with ballot requests. 2.9 billion. How many ballots do they need to win? What is it going to be? 350 million for Kamala and 80 million for. This doesn't even make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense.
But
None of this makes any sense. But again, the entire Russia hoax never made any sense. The PP dossier never made any sense. Just about everything they've thrown at President Trump has never made any sense. So to me, it's just another example of gaslighting Americans. They'll just say anything, just like the Bureau of Labor and Statistics will say anything about how great the economy is. And then all of a sudden, whoops, job report correction, 818,000. We got to, remove. That was a mistake. Seriously, it's either sloppy, shoddy, or intentional. And I think they're doing it to gaslight us, to prove to the American people and those that are paying attention that the majority of Americans aren't paying attention, because we just don't even pay attention. We're like not even getting the news. And if we are hearing it, it's just going right over us, because it's just more like Charlie Brown's school teacher, wah, 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 wah. And we've tuned it all out because, again, this crazy information, disinfo, misinformation campaign is literally gunfire in all directions over all of our heads. It's really hard to sort out what is critical to the restoration of our republic. And on that note, these bad foreign actors you've written about, Iran most recently in your Substack here, where you say, the Iranians should have, by all intents and purposes, already had a response to Israel. They said they were going to come out guns a-blazing, and this would have been a response to the July 31st, it's almost a month now, assassination of the Hamas leader in Tehran. So what gives with Iran, knowing that they have full capability to go and launch a full attack on Israel? Why are they holding back? Is it China holding them back? Is it Russia holding them back? Who is the adult in the room, or is this just fake news?
Yeah, this is beginning to, it's quiet, too quiet, and it's beginning to get concerning. Could be several possibilities. Iran could have been intimidated by, they were schwacked and embarrassed in April by their missile launches, which had almost a perfect, essentially every single one of the 350 that left the launch pad was knocked down. Hamas has been essentially, they were pushing their proxies. Iran was pushing their proxies, the 3H club of Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis. Well, the Hamas has essentially been attrited to very little left of them. Hezbollah has had years of preparation, but I think is very adverse after seeing what happened to Hamas. The Houthis we've essentially given up on defending ships. We just don't have the resources to be everywhere at once with our greatly weakened Navy. But, is there also, there was this one note that there was this secret Biden order to increase the nuclear posture status. something that the Committee on Present Danger China, which I'm a founding member of, we gave 2 years ago. We were concerned about the woeful state of the nuclear weapons domain of America. It was like crisis. So are they coordinating a decapitating nuclear strike? Because the Biden team has secretly acknowledged, oh my, China has far more nuclear weapons than we thought they did. Well, yeah, hello.
Yeah.
I mean, the intelligence community number of 500 has been static for multiple years, and oh, they're not going to reach our level for another 10 years. I mean, I can, without revealing classified information, I have strong impression that very little IC resources have been apportioned to studying the Chinese nuclear threat. And I think now that they've actually looked at it, even the Biden team, and the professionals we have left inside the DoD and intel community are going, we got a problem. We've got a big problem. China's nuclear force is growing far faster than expected, and then combined and united between China, Russia, Iran, and I just say at this point in time, we've been talking about Iran's on this far away from nuclear weapons. We've been saying that since the 90s. Come on. I mean, this is ridiculous. You just assume they have some modicum of delivery nuclear warhead. It's North Korean, probably, but the North Koreans, Iranians, Russians, they are easily 2x our size. And that includes what little nuclear force the Brits and the French have. They could do a decapitation strike and have plenty left over. Is that possibly what's going on? Are they possibly contemplating a decapitating nuclear strike to just push? We clearly don't have a president anyway. It's now clear that it's been a scam, that Biden has been, there's a RICO Act conspiracy to cover up Biden's mental cognitive state. And are they just looking at, you know what? We have the force. Let's just decapitate them.
Yeah. That part is very troubling because, again, you're dealing with actors over there, some sane, some completely insane. I think the Iranian people are very intelligent people. They're obviously being brutally governed by a brutal regime. And again, you don't understand the political ideology and how far these people will go. But it seems to me to be very measured. Now, the Houthis have been a lot more erratic, attacking oil tankers and so forth. There were some reports out there that they'd actually attacked, I think it was a U.S. aircraft carrier, and that turned out to be false. Or if you are tracking all that, John, can you tell us, was that truly a false, piece of fake news?
That was false, but I think we have... America could exist without passage through the Mandel Abab passageway up into the Suez. Europe can't survive without that. This is actually Europe's problem, not America's problem.
Right.
The only problem is when they're stressed, that affects our supply chains, because then they start coming into our supply chains. But I think the Navy we blew... I'm not talking about April when we shot down all the Iranian missiles. I'm just talking about we've blown another billion of ammunition against the Houthis, and they're still firing away. So this tit for tat is not strategically working. And yes, when the U.S. Navy is present and can engage, they've done remarkably well in that against the Houthi elements. But the reality is, it's sickening. We have essentially 70 ships combat ships that are deployable. People says, well, that's not true. Our fleet is 295. That doesn't mean all 295 are ready to go to sea. That means many are in maintenance. Many are
Right.
undergoing repairs after being at sea. Many
That's
are
right.
undergoing repairs to be prepared to go to sea. There's a deployment cycle. And if you've ever had to manage the deployment cycle for any of the services, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, we got 70 combat ships. It is pathetic. The Reagan Navy is nothing like what it used to be, and Trump was starting the recapitalization. but they just made an announcement. 17 support ships are going to be essentially put at pier side because they don't have the civilian crews to man them. Those 17 ships, a combat ship can't go to sea without these support ships. And it's crazy. So we have an absolute crisis in our Navy. And I think the Navy has kind of pulled back against the Houthis because it said, we can't sustain a persistent presence
Right.
in the Mediterranean, off of Yemen, up in the Persian Gulf, and in the Pacific. And oh, by the way, we have Chinese ships all over the Baltic. That's the Baltic. That's the sea in between Sweden, Finland, Estonia. We can't have our ships. I mean, the Chinese Navy is like they're like 50 to 70 ships larger than ours.
Is this really more a show of force as BRICS gets ready to flex in October when Putin steps up to the mic, the chairman of BRICS? Uruguay has recently joined. You've got 160 countries ready and poised to join the payment processing system of the BRICS financial behemoth network, which is 70% of the GDP around the world is now into BRICS. I mean, is this really just more posturing to kind of just really put the beat down on the central bank, Western central bank countries led by the United States to say, you know what, your day in the sun is over, United States. Now there's a new team in town and we're flexing. That's what it feels like to me, because it almost feels like we're going right up to the brink of a complete nuclear holocaust, but we won't actually die. We'll just be, left on life support until we can get our act together and remove the regime here in this country.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm coming at this from a little bit of a different angle. We're still the reserve currency. We'll still be the reserve currency for a while. But what we're seeing, and this is where all the financial experts in the US, the UK, the stock exchange in Tokyo don't get it. A de facto, it's not necessarily called BRICS, but it's many of them are BRICS nations, and it's essentially Russia and China have spent so much time working around the trade sanctions that we put on them, and we can put on them because we're the reserve currency. They've essentially created a shadow world economy that is resilient to our sanctions because we're the reserve currency. So I don't think they even realize it. They're calling it BRICS, but they've essentially de facto set up a second world economy to live outside the fire we can rain on them with our trade sanctions. And that's the problem with these sanctions is Jake Sullivan and those types, they set and forget these sanctions, and they don't realize these countries are going to figure out a way around them, and you can't set and forget sanctions.
When you can't go through the front door, what did you always have to do as a kid? Try the back door, try the window. Mom or dad usually screwed up and left something open, and that's what's happened here. That Mama Bear, Papa Bear, the United States, the Big Eagle has left a bunch of we're outflanked, we're exposed, and I mean, again, still considered technically the world's reserve currency, but these countries are dumping treasuries left and right, and I think there's a day of reckoning that's coming here to the United States that we haven't seen. And I don't think we can even compare it to 1929. My personal opinion is we're going to see something more, calamitous than 1929. Will it be as long-lived? Will it be 10 years to unburden? No, I don't think so, because we're resilient. And if we're lucky enough to get a Trump presidency, I think he's going to, I don't know if that you could say he's going to enter BRICS, but he's certainly going to pony up into a gold-backed US dollar again, because that is the only solution, in my humble opinion, along with decentralization with, your cryptos. So, John, do you have a few minutes to stick around? I want to get your opinion on something that Roger Stone put out regarding RFK Jr. and potentially pushing him into the CIA. But I need to take a quick break. Do you have a couple minutes to stick around
Absolutely.
and just comment on that? All right. We'll be right back here. We are with Colonel Rhett John Mills. And always, I enjoy my conversations with him. Stick with us. We'll be right back after this break.
My Towels solved the problem that we've all had with towels. You go into the stores and they feel lotiony and soft, but then you get them home and they wind dry you. That's why I made My Towels. They actually work, they're soft, and they absorb. And now I'm excited to announce 2 brand new lines of My Towels. What makes them the best towels ever is they're now made with 100% long staple Shapir cotton. This is a combed ring spun cotton that makes My Towels even softer and more absorbent than ever. And now you get a 6-piece set for an amazing introductory sale price as low as $29.98. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get My Towels for only $29.98. Or you can get my designer premium line for just $20 more. Either way, you save 50% now on all My Towels. They actually work. What a concept. This offer won't last long, so please order now.
mypillow.com. Guys, I never saw this on my 2024 bingo card, but the Swifties are waking up. The Swifties. I never thought I'd see the day that Swifties were rallying for Trump. I guess something with ISIS happened. There's a lot of terrorism going on. I guess she had to shut down some shows because of it. And a lot of them are just saying, you know, if Trump was in office, this would have never, ever happened. She would be safe. There wouldn't be terrorism or wars going on because we had world peace before, and he'll do it again. So they're finally realizing it's not about race or gender or anything of that sort. It's about our safety and the policies and a secure border. And they're finally waking up, and it's wild to see. Like, I'm so proud. Literally so freaking proud right now. Like, go Swifties. Like, let's fucking do this, bro. We're in it together now, baby.
Go Swifties. I never thought I'd play anybody that supported Taylor Swift, but hey, you know what? I guess people can wake up and they can finally figure out. I wonder if some of these Swifties actually get a paycheck and look and see how much money is being yanked in taxes. I know when my kids saw it, even though they were already conservative, they were like, holy crap, mom, this is robbery. I said, yes, it is. Welcome to the big show, folks. Anyhow, we are in the second half of Steel News. Welcome back. I'm Ann Vandersteel, and we are joined by Colonel Rhett John Mills. He's been riding shotgun with me this evening, and I wanted to have him back on because I want to talk about RFK Jr., who has recently just endorsed President Trump. That was a big, shall we say, lift for the campaign. My first question for you, John, is do you think that's going to be sort of the thing that gets us all over the hump, all the independents and the center lefties? Will they be following RFK, or is this a nothing burger when it comes to just making sure we are uniting America?
Oh, thank you, Ann. No, I think it's quite significant. The high point of third-party candidates was Ross Perot in '92. Essentially, he hit 19%. That's pretty significant. We wouldn't have had Clinton if it wasn't for Ross Perot. But here, so what does RFK bring to the Trump camp? I would say even at a very conservative 3 to 5%, I think that'll make the difference. I think it'll be higher than that. I would say easily in the 5 to 10 percentile range. There's a lot of libertarians that are fed up, and they liked RFK. And so I think it's going to be very significant. You know, I know they had to steal 3 billion Social Security numbers to make up for RFK.
Yeah. Well, we did just report that the FBI said that 2.9 billion Social Security numbers were heisted by Iran or some bad actor. So what do you make of this? Roger Stone, always controversial, puts out this statement that he makes a good case for RFK Jr. as Trump's CIA director. Now, knowing all we know about the JFK files, and of course, the CIA was behind his uncle's assassination, what say you on this position being posited by Roger Stone, saying, you know what, maybe give him the opportunity to fight back, or would he be better left to find in the Health and Human Services role?
Wow, you know, and I was just on Roger's show. I think I would put RFK at CIA. That's incredible. This man has had family tragedies that are still not explained. I mean, this is, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, we have an issue with the CIA. We've, when it just comes to the assassination of his uncle, JFK, we still don't have truth on that matter. There's still a number of elements of the story that have not been released. I've studied it at length. We still don't know why Oswald was in Mexico City at the Russian embassy trying to contact Kostakov. We still don't have a lot of the details on those phone calls where he was talking to somebody inside the Soviet embassy in Mexico City. And it's always been my posit that shooters rarely operate alone. Especially, snipers rarely operate alone. It's usually at least a 2 or 3 person team. The ability of Lee Harvey, essentially 30 days out before the assassination, to go to Mexico City and then come back. Back then, the Mexican-American border, anybody could do whatever they wanted to do. There was no border security at all. I guess we don't have any now, but back then,
Nothing's changed, John.
yeah, nothing's changed. But it was people could come and go across that border at will. Well, did Lee Harvey bring Kostakov with him back across the border? And then Kostakov was his coach or spotter. Maybe Kostakov actually pulled the trigger and then left Lee Harvey holding the bag to be shot by Jack Ruby. So there's all this information. And then his brother his dad shot by Sirhan. We still don't know truth on this matter. All these things are just crazy. So I'd like to see RFK at CIA. We need a complete transparency and accountability for everything. We need a CIA, but there has to be, we can't have a shadow government operating.
Well, that's a tough one for me because I can hear what you're saying, but I look back at the rollout of these warp speed and these bioweapons, which they masqueraded under the name of vaccine. And you now understand the Ninth Circuit is not giving these pharmaceutical companies the cover they need under the 1986 Childhood Vaccine Safety Act because they are not classifying these bioweapons as vaccines. And they defined as to why they are not acknowledging them under that category, therefore exposing them to, I would say, massive class action lawsuits for all the vaccine injured out there, bioweapon injured. So, somebody's got to take that stand. He wrote a whole book on the real Anthony Fauci. If he could actually straddle both agencies, I don't know how you do that. Personally, they all need to be dissolved, but it would be nice for him to dissolve the CIA, expose everything, and move over to Health and Human Services and tackle what needs to be done when it comes to our medical and healthcare system, because it has just been destroyed by, again, agency government and, the fox guarding the hen house kind of a thing. John, as always, it is great to have you on. I do want to just leave everybody with this because Biden is seemingly not running the country right now. We don't know who's running the country. He's been in hiding. And of course, Kamala's probably going to do the same thing, campaign from her basement. What say you in terms of what we're going to look, what should we expect from the Kamala Harris team between now and November 5th? Is she going to be very visible? Is she going to be debating Trump? Is she going to be taking questions from the press, or is she going to be hiding?
She's going to ride the vibe and she's going to ignore. She's going to try and get out of that. Now she's quibbling over the one debate that was agreed to. They're trying. This was part of the grand bait and switch to lie to the American people. Wait until the last moment. I assert there's been a coup of presidencies. Biden has been deposed. That's unlawful. Any process like this has to be done under the 25th Amendment. It's been a RICO Act conspiracy. And they're going to try to just push her on joy. And it's a fraud. They're pushing it, and there's whether
Nazi Germany all over again.
Yeah. They're going to just push. It's fake. It's totally fake. I was at the county fair and the Democrat booth. It was a bunch of old white ladies that just looked angry. They didn't get the joy memo, obviously. They were just angry. They were waiting for Bella Abzug to leap from the grave and deliver them from their pathetic lives, I guess. There is no joy. So we got to go after the independents. We got to go after the new legal immigrants. maybe even the illegal immigrants also, because they didn't come to this country. Most of them did not come to this country because they wanted us. Most of them were fleeing from some socialist dysfunctional country anyway. So we gotta, those that are just, the aging population that just hates Trump no matter what. Okay, you got to write them off. Let's go to the new voters and those that are open-minded and those that are libertarian.
Salient words, great points. As always, good suggestions. John, you're a prolific writer. You are obviously what I consider a go-to when it comes to national security, because you've been seen and done. You were in the middle of that entire Russia collusion hoax, along with this and the impeachment crisis. You were providing information to Durham, which sadly, I don't know what happened to the Durham report, but I feel like a lot of the contributions that people like yourself have made were almost for nothing, because I don't know if it's waiting to be recycled for the next time President Trump appears. For the next 4 years, will he be able to dust all this off and finally go to town? He's talking about basically liquidating the swamp. I hope he means it this time. And he says he now knows who's who'd in the zoo. So final question, are you confident he does? And will he execute on accountability for all of these demons that basically relegated him to an executive order president the first 4 years?
I think it'll be much more bold on advancing the interests of the American people versus a deep state government. Now, do remember, one of the key people that Durham got and is in prison right now is Charles McGonigal, which I don't know if, because I don't know if, who's the Facebook, I don't know if he mentioned in his letter Charles McGonigal as being one of the reasons that Facebook went hard on this. It was all because of Charles McGonigal. So there was a very good, he's in prison right now. Maybe that they wanted him in prison. But Charles McGonigal, the director of counterintelligence for the FBI. So I think Trump is going to go all in on cleaning house.
I hope so. Charles McGonigal was not mentioned in that letter to Jim Jordan. Would have been nice if he had been. It might have helped clean a few things up here, but no. I'm sure there's other things that are happening in the background, as there always is. But the one person I know who I would rely on for that go-to background intel would be you. So you are, again, an incredible writer. You have your Substack over there. It's been streaming at the bottom where people can follow you at your Substack, colonelretjohn.substack.com. That's Colonel, COLONEL, retjohn.substack.com. John, great to see you. Thank you for stopping by this evening. And, I'll be checking in with you again as you start to spew a few more things on Substack to try and get some clarity, which typically doesn't require too much because you're so eloquent with the pen.
Oh, thank you, Ann. Always an honor to be on your show.
God bless you. All right, everybody, that is a wrap for tonight. Just want to leave you with a little reminder of the caliber of people that like to attend the DNC conventions. And this is really where I feel like America has gone completely off the rails. When you're celebrating this sort of activity, I have to say I pity them, because clearly these people are not mentally well.
What brought you out here today? No, listen, my name is Noah Shorts. I use he, they pronouns. I'm just really excited that we have the first black woman that could be the president of the United States. And my wife, right? We're in a polyamorous relationship. The lover that my wife took is African American, and I've learned so much about the struggle that people of color go through as a result of my wife's boyfriend. And so I'm excited to really do my part to show solidarity for my marginalized communities. And the best way to do that is to get the first woman of color to be the commander-in-chief. And I'm really excited. I'm so pumped.